really excited to share that we have 3 amazing women panelists with us, again from diverse backgrounds and disciplines. And it just gives you a taste of some of the folks that are involved in the movement. So I'd like to spend a couple of minutes introducing them each to you. So Madeline Shaw, and Madeline, do you want to just wave to folks so they know who you are, if they can see your name? Anyway, Madeline Shaw is a social entrepreneur with a particular interest in sustainable design, gender equity, and progressive business practice. She's co-founder of ISLE, formerly known as Lunapads, a founding Canadian B Corp that was one of the earliest ventures to successfully market reusable menstrual health products, now a vibrant part of the rapidly growing femtech industry. She's also founder of G-Day, a national event series for tween girls, as well as Nestworks, a family-friendly co-working concept under development. In 2017, she was the recipient of the EY Entrepreneur of the Year Award for Social Impact. She's currently completing her first book entitled The Greater Good, Social Entrepreneurship for Everyday People Who Want to Change the World, that's being released this October. Our second panelist is Ada Bartlett. Do you want to wave there, Ada? Ada is a PhD in engineering, would you believe? She's an entrepreneur, mentor, and speaker. She's founder of Live Your Design and creator of 4 Components of Authenticity. Ada creates tools that empower you to align your days with your authentic strengths so that you can maximize the value you bring to the world. Live True to Yourself became a focus for Ada in 2009. Live Your Design is the result of years of study, experimentation, and reflection, where she combines her technical and research background with the human design system to help you develop your personal expression of authentic living. As an award-winning entrepreneur and researcher, Ada is known for breaking down complex technical concepts into easy, digestible pieces. As a bonus, she just might be the most cheerful engineer you've ever met. I think Ada's always smiling. When she's not researching or future developing her business, Ada can be found tea in hand, cruising on the high seas pre-COVID, or at home loudly cheering for her favorite sports teams. And finally, our third panelist is Shelley Gilbert. Shelley, do you want to wave? And Shelley has spent over 25 years delivering and innovating in operations and services, growing businesses and strong teams, and providing leadership, trusted advice, and value to organizations in both the public and the private sector. Shelley is a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and she is responsible for PwC's consulting business in BC and leads the BC public sector industry teams for all PwC services. So Shelley's a busy lady. She began her career in behavioral health and community services, and she went on to be an innovator in health and human services and led her own management consulting business. She's been a COO and CFO, delivering on operations, technology, labor relations, and innovation portfolios. Shelley has held senior executive roles in the BC government, including strategic policy, economic development, shared service delivery transformation, technology, health and human services, as well as operational and financial roles. Prior to joining PwC in 2018, Shelley spent a decade leading strategy, sales, and delivery of large transformation programs nationally and globally for IBM as VP, with her primary focus on public sector and health and human services. Shelley is a founding member of Vancouver Women in Technology and has a long history of community service and active mentoring in her communities of practice and graduate business schools in BC. So let's welcome all our 3 panelists here tonight. Welcome. So I'd like to open up. It may be easiest, I think if all the 4 panelists open up, we'll try it like this and make sure that everybody's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask questions to each of the panelists, and then I'm going to open up to you as participants to respond to some of the questions, to put your hands up, and we'll take some shares after each one. Can everybody hear okay? Yeah, everybody's good?
That's great.
Okay, I was having a few technical issues before we started. And you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to record.
We are recording.
Oh, are you good? Thank you.
I hit record for you, Pam.
Thank you much. Okay, so our first question to the panel, and I'll direct the question first to Madeleine. What authentic feminine leadership qualities have been game changers for you and have brought you success? Madeleine.
Thank you. And what an honor it is for me to be here with all of you. I'm having such a lovely International Women's Day, and this is such a lovely, addition to all of it. So, okay, feminine leadership. So here's what it means to me at kind of a high level. I think when we think about leadership and we think about power and we think about control, we think about, somebody who's leading the way and who's telling you how things go. And I found that in the past to be a very masculine model. It's, there's sort of I will tell you what to do and you will do it kind of quality. And so when I think about feminine leadership, I think about the idea of power with instead of power over. It's funny, I was talking to my daughter about it today. She's like, Mommy, what do you mean feminine leadership? And I said, in a nutshell, it's that. It's like, you don't need to be the one at the front of the room. You don't need to be the one telling everybody what to do. You are about building community, and you're about kind of gathering people and listening to them. And not necessarily feeling like you have to be the one who is sort of 100% responsible. Like, honestly, my leadership gifts are incredibly uneven. I work in partnership with people for pretty much every single thing that I do. And I get a lot done, but it's only because I'm in relationship really closely with people that I'm not afraid to ask for help from, that I'm not afraid to say, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? The qualities that you pointed to as well, Pam, compassion, the listening piece is huge for me, and also just totally letting go of any need to be right. I just want to get to a good solution that is, has impact at its core for people and is doing good in the world. And, maybe I'm the one with the best idea to do that, or maybe it's somebody else, or maybe it's something we arrive at kind of in conversation. I will add that I've had a business partner for 20 years, and I just love working with her. Like, every idea gets better because of the two of us. It's very inclusive, and it's just a wonderful way to go. So I would say those are my main ones, is just feeling like a desire to include, a desire to create good in the world, instead of feeling like I need to be in control and be right.
That's very interesting. And I think, Madeleine, what you've said is this interesting thing about power with versus power over. I think for a lot of us, I can't speak for all women, obviously, but a lot of us in conversation, that word power doesn't make us feel really good, because we take it from that masculine, autocratic sort of hierarchical perspective. But if you talk about power with, it's so leveling. And you obviously, since you've had a business partner for 20 years, you're totally modeling collaboration. And the fact that you've shared this business of knowing that you don't always have all the right answers. And I actually love Barbara Gray, an organizational theorist and skilled negotiator, some of you may have heard of. Years ago, she wrote that she likened collaboration to a kaleidoscope, and the pieces of glass in a kaleidoscope to the multiple stakeholders involved in effective collaborative relationships and multi-stakeholder collaborations. And I think I really love that. And that's, I think, yeah, when we really believe in collaboration, that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I think you were modeling that and also speaking further to that. So Shelley, do you want to share with us what authentic feminine leaderships have been game changers for you and brought you success?
I would love to, Pam, and I'm honored to be here with everybody, but I'd also be remiss if I didn't say that I'm coming to you from Victoria, British Columbia, which is on the unceded territory of the Lekwungen speaking people who share a long history of land with the Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich speaking people. And it's my privilege to share this space with them and with all of the tradition and history that they share. And it's a pleasure to be with all of you. So I was listening to Madeline, and tough act to follow Madeline and Ada to begin with. I might have the most boring career history on the planet.
Definitely not.
But it got me thinking a little bit. So when Pam was talking about, my background, my first job was actually in social work and working in jails. And so I actually didn't get to work with a lot of great female role models early in my career. And when I think about some of those game changers, this will surprise some of you, but a couple of my best early role models were actually men that model the traits that Pam was talking about. And I had a board chair when I was running a social services agency, and he had 4 things he said to me that have stuck with me, and I think of human sort of authentic leadership, because they happen to come to me from a man, but I think women tend to model these a lot. And he said, the 3 most powerful things that you can say are, I don't know, I was wrong, I could use your help. And he is a funny guy because he didn't speak very much, but he was also the person that taught me that your job isn't actually to have all the answers, but to encourage the contributions and the capabilities of everyone around you. And I've since then had the privilege to work with so many talented women and just some amazing female leaders that expand your aperture and your horizon. But when I think about those game changers, Pam, coming out of working in a jail where everything was very command and control, and who was the loudest and who was the strongest, all of those, and power dynamics are enormous in a jail setting.
Yeah.
But between the people that live there and between the people that work there, those were huge for me in terms of learning to lead differently. And I feel privileged that they've stuck with me, and that board chair has stuck with me. He's in my head a lot.
Thank you, Shelley. I think it is it's really interesting to hear you compare and contrast, and having that experience early on from seeing this, this prison with that command and control sort of leadership, and then having a man on a board later on who shared, something so valuable that it stuck with you. I think that, yeah, I don't know, I was wrong, and I could use your help. Wow. Imagine if all leaders were that authentic and shared their vulnerability that much, right? I mean, no, I certainly did not have very many, if any. Yes, I did have, I would say, at least one authentic feminine leader as a role model, but I like you and maybe like others had experienced a number of women who were more like very, we're not collaborative and not authentic, and really it was all about them. And so for many years, I actually did not really want to be a leader. And in fact, I didn't think I was a leader. But then when somebody invited me to be part of a women's leadership network and speak at their monthly meeting, I thought, oh, I must be one now. But I didn't really feel that I was one. So I think it is really interesting to think about authenticity and these qualities now that some of us have had great models and some of us haven't. So thanks for sharing. And Ada,
Yes.
what authentic feminine leadership have been game changers for you?
Yeah, well, first, I'm so grateful to be here with all of you today. It's fun to see the sun. It's a bit darker here in Ontario because I'm ahead in the time. But thank you very much, Pamela, for inviting me, and it's so nice to meet all of you. I really appreciated Madeline's and Shelley's comments, and both of their comments have made me reflect on different career experiences I've had. But to answer your question, Pamela, the first word in the list that you shared that struck me was obviously authenticity. As you said in my introduction, it's something near and dear to my heart and something I've been exploring both academically as well as experientially for quite some time. And I find that with authenticity, and I think maybe Shelley's example is aligned to this in a way, is having the comfort and the courage to show up as your true self to people that you're close to strangers. And when you have that courage, you can create connections. I don't know how long the story took, the exchange of that little bit of advice that was given to Shelley, but sometimes you don't need a lot of time, but when you have that courage and you have that comfort to show up as you are, and accept yourself fully and share that with someone else, it can have such profound impact. So I find that that's really important for authentic feminine leaders and leaders in general. And the second word on your list, Pamela, I loved, is compassion. So the ability to take on someone's distress, to recognize that another person is in distress, and then translate that recognition into an action to say, okay, not only do I recognize and I sympathize with you, but I'm actually going to take another step and move that into action. I feel is so powerful and can really be the catalyst for a lot of change that the world needs leaders to do. Yeah.
Thanks, Ada. And I, I'm also really curious about learning more later about all the work you've done on authenticity. To come from a really technical background like engineering, I mean, that's very creative as well. A lot of times we think that's very technical, but there's a lot of creativity at certain levels when you do that kind of work. But I think I love that comfort and courage to show up as your true self. Yeah, again, I certainly haven't experienced a lot of female role models who were totally vulnerable, some, and I think we're all learning, and it's, in the past, we felt that we needed to know everything, I would say. And so thank you for sharing that. And also the compassion, the ability to recognize, this is part of the emotional intelligence piece, right, as well. Being able to recognize when others are feeling distress, and the intuitive side actually too, when you think about it, because you have a sense when somebody might be stuffing something down and not really, and wanting to show that, they can handle it, but really deep inside they're in grief, or, they're struggling. So yeah. So thank you so much. And so now what I'd like to do is spend a couple of minutes opening up to participants and asking you if there's an authentic feminine leadership quality that you have found has been a game changer for you and has brought you success. Does anybody want to be the brave soul who puts their hands up and shares? Anybody?
I'll share.
Okay, Patty, go.
One thing that I've ran a lot of women's groups here in Virginia and stuff like that. The biggest thing that I have found that has really helped us is anytime we start a meeting or anything we're talking to somebody, we make sure we go in with curiosity, not judgment. And so even if we totally disagree, we can have totally different walks of life. But if I'm curious, I want to know why you think the way you think, even if I don't agree with it. And that doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it. But that has found the best support for all of us. And we have made friendships with so many different people that we didn't think we had anything in common. But going in with that attitude of curiosity and not judging somebody. And I think that's really a feminine, scope there too, when you're really looking at, I wonder, why is that? And just asking questions with curiosity.
Thanks, Patty. Curiosity, it's so true, right? If we move to judgment, then we close down. But when we come from curiosity, we open up to listen and understand. So thank you for that share. I'm just looking, I think I can take one more here. Yeah, I can take one more. Karen, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
I was just wanting to comment on some of what was shared already, and the idea of authenticity and being authentic in relationship, and inviting, being really present and being authentic innately allows you to be a leader when we start committing to doing that within ourselves through the example that we show as we express more authentically in ourselves, being able to recognize who we are in each moment when we're not present, and being able to make the correction, and how that impacts the people around us and encourages that in others. So it's not even about needing to be the head of an organization and being leadership that way, but really being able to do that. And just something else too, that a lot of women leaders have been in the system of that hierarchy and have had to sort of compete with men in that situation, and to realize that that system doesn't work anymore. Everything that's happening in the world right now is showing us that that kind of leadership and misuse of power and that hierarchical system does not take in the whole, does not take in the qualities of care and inclusion and equality and compassion. So a lot of what's happening now is bringing these qualities and the need for these qualities to come forward.
Thank you, Karen. And that's why female wave of change is the timing is really ripe for it, I believe. And thank you also for pointing out, Karen, that really you don't have to be head of an organization or head of your own company to be a leader. You can be a leader in your family, in your community, or wherever. Really, and that's one thing too about the movement is there's women from all walks of life. And we can all learn and grow and share from one another. So thank you for that. Madeline had one quick story or something she'd like to share. Madeline.
If you don't mind, it's just, and also what was just shared a second ago really reminded me of it. So I learned something today that you all may know, but I did not. And this is a very interesting fact. So I learned that the human stress response that typically people say, well, it's fight, flight, or freeze. And that's, common brain science, and everybody just sort of reels that off. And that's what happens in your amygdala. So that was research that was based on research only done on men until 2000. And when they started to redo that research on women after 2000, they discovered a fourth response, which they called tend and befriend. And I just think it's really profound because what Ada was saying about how we respond to, when someone's in distress, and look at the way female leaders have responded to COVID across the world. And to me, that just typifies this tend and befriend. It's more than this fight, flight, or freeze. There's a whole other human dimension of response and ways to deal with stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention that because it kind of blew my mind and I wanted to share it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it isn't common knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it makes so much sense. And definitely the feminine leaders have stepped up. We've seen Prime Minister of New Zealand, our own BC Medical Officer of Health, Bonnie Henry, and so many have been much more effective than men. And it's interesting too, there's now some research related to women being more effective during crises as well. And so that fits really. Interesting. Okay, then I'm going to cut off the discussion. I think we could talk for hours actually on these questions, right? But we're only here for a short time. So the second question, and I'm going to ask Shelley to start with this one, is to describe a challenge you faced when you've led with an authentic feminine leadership quality and a strategy used to either overcome or address that particular challenge. So a challenge you face that when you've led with an authentic feminine leadership quality and a strategy you've used to overcome or address that challenge.
There's a couple examples that come to mind, Pam, but the quote that comes to mind today, and this will not necessarily resonate from a pop culture perspective with everybody on the call, but is actually Nicki Minaj. And she says, sometimes you got to be the beauty and the beast. And I think I see it less and less where leading with those kinds of qualities is challenged. And I would look at things like the Japanese head of the Olympic Committee being forced to resign for saying women talk too much. They're too yappy in meetings. I think the mainstream conversation has changed dramatically. COVID, I think, in a good way, has accelerated some of that. But I take the Nicki Minaj quote to heart, and to me, it's no less authentic that the times I am challenged for leading that way, I am fierce and tenacious about the things that I care about and are important. And I'm not gentle and I'm not tend and befriend about them. And I stand behind them and I fight for them. And I don't fight for just thinking that I'm right? For me, I will tell you that that response comes out the strongest when I think something's wrong, when I think something's hurting somebody or some group, or I think it's unjust. But I love the Nicki Minaj quote because I think it's true. I think, you can be beautiful and, collaborative and compassionate. And then when something is way offside, you need to fight like hell and not back down.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for that. I love that quote. I haven't heard that from her. Sometimes you've got to be the beauty and the beast. Yeah, because, and the other thing is, we can't do it all with our feminine leadership qualities. We have to use our masculine sides as well. It's a balance, right? We can't just say, okay, we're going to forget about strategy and planning and, organized stuff, because that's more of the left brain, right? Our left logical, rational brain. We need that too. However, there's been a real deficiency in the feminine, and also a lot of the feminine qualities have not been respected. They're starting to become more respected. So now it's highlighting them, and at Female Wave of Change, that's what we're doing. We're highlighting them and saying, these need to come together with the masculine, and how can we bring them out, and how can we learn from them, and how can we, teach younger leaders as well to exhibit them and feel comfortable stepping into their authentic feminine leadership. Okay, Ada, would you like to describe a challenge you face when you've led with an authentic feminine leadership quality and a strategy that you use to address it?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a great question. I love Shelley's answer, because as I was reflecting on this question, I was like, what are those challenges? And in some ways, I very much relate with her answer in saying, if I see something that's wrong or something that I'm not willing to accept, then that beast, to use the Nicki Minaj quote, can come out. So for me, when I was reflecting on this question, it became much more internal. So it made me reflect on those internal times when I wasn't sure if I wanted to say something. Was it really worth saying something in this personal situation or this familiar situation or a business situation? And reflecting on, no, actually, I see something wrong here. I know I can make a positive change. And maybe collecting the courage, as we spoke about earlier, or raising your hand in one way or another and saying something. And I find that looking, and someone had said this earlier this evening, that looking at leadership, not just in terms of national leaders and provincial leaders and government leaders of all kinds, but also in your own households. Like, I'm sure we've all been leaders in our own households over this COVID time, and identifying, applying these leadership roles and these leadership skills to what we do with our spouses and our families and our partners every day. But for me, the challenge that came to mind when I heard your question was the internal one, sort of you reaching it. And then sometimes it's like, oh, it'd just be easier if I just didn't deal with this. But you see something's wrong, and you have to do something. And I think that that's an important part of authentic female leadership.
Thanks, Ada. It's like, yeah, sharing how we feel inside, and when we feel really committed to changing things. I think that's part of, if you take it out a little bit further, being a catalyst for change, or a change catalyst, which I speak a fair bit about. Because when you see something, and Shelley was talking about it too, when you see something that's wrong, you want to right it. You want to change it, So yes, I think these are.
Sometimes you got to be Callie.
Sometimes you got to be what, Karen?
The goddess Callie.
Oh, the goddess Callie. Does everybody know what Karen means there? Do you want to share a little bit what you mean by that?
Please elaborate.
Well, Callie is sort of the goddess of the ways in which the human mind can get out of alignment with what is in alignment and what is true. So she'll be very fierce at cutting off the head of, they use the image of man, but they mean it in terms of how the human mind can play havoc on what is true and what is in alignment with spirit or the heart or the integrity of that moment, and being very fierce around staying on point. and not get carried away by the human imagination or the mind that gets out of whack.
Yeah,
I'm not really expressing it very well right now, but
I think you are. I think you are, Goddess Kelly. I think,
yeah.
are people okay? I think, yeah. It's,
Yeah, that was helpful. That was helpful.
yeah, I think it was really, it's a nice image. Can we have someone else put their hand up to share a challenge they've faced and how they've led with an authentic feminine leadership quality with us to address it? Anybody? Marie?
I'd also love Madeleine's answer. I don't know if she's had a turn yet.
Oh, you're right. Thank you for that. I'm getting so engrossed in the responses. I forgot to ask Madeleine. Yes, the panelist I invited, I don't even give you a chance to speak.
No. Well, I went twice
Thank
last
you for
time,
that,
so
Ada. No, you just stood in your power there and you did it, right?
that's so great. And so when I think, I wanted to follow up just a tiny bit about Kali first. So I think of her as the goddess of creation and destruction. And so that, yeah, she's just got both of those potencies as sort of a quick hand. But this is fascinating. The answers that everybody else has given and pointed to are exactly the story that I wanted to tell as well. So it's a brief story I'd like to share actually about not myself, but my business partner. And so, but for folks new to this whole menstrual health piece, in terms of natural care, like when we started out in the early 90s, nobody cared. Nobody was interested. We had to work so hard to get customers, but we worked and we worked and we worked and we were dedicated and committed because we loved it. And finally, in around 2015 or so, things started to change and people started to be like, hey, let's talk about periods. Yeah, it's not gross to reuse things. Let's talk about cups and let's talk about, period underwear and so on. And this predicated a whole new crop of competitors who came to the market. I don't personally like the term competitors, but believe me, these companies are so competitive. Like until that point, our colleagues, the other handful of businesses who did what we did in some way, shape, or form, they were friends of ours. We believed, in an abundant market. Like how many people menstruate in the world? Come on, what do we need to compete for? But these new companies coming in just took it to a whole new level. They had very traditionally competitive mindsets around business and started doing all kinds of stuff that we didn't like, but we kind of followed. And because they're other women, they're doing their thing. So we just kind of put up with it. Until December, actually, one of our competitors ordered up a complete size range of a product that we had been featured in a magazine for and celebrated for being extremely inclusive in our sizing. And this is a company that's way bigger than us. And they used an R&D credit card. It was just super obvious. And my business partner, Suzanne, who doesn't normally stand up and take a stand in that fierce kind of way that Shelley described, wrote this open letter without naming the CEO and without naming the company and just called them out. And it was like she was protecting our staff and our customers and the integrity of everybody that we were trying to do, just going, you know what, we did this, we invested in this, we worked hard, we paid plus size models and designers to help us. Like, don't just take all that work and just think you can just rip it off for nothing and it means nothing. Like it doesn't, it means something. And if you want to do this, then go and do the work yourself and support that community and have that conversation with those people. And it was so impressive because she really stood up for the team and stood up for the company's values in a way I'd never seen. So that is my story.
Wow, that's a very powerful one. A business and good for your partner for doing that. Wow.
Can I add one thought to that before we open it up? Because there's a nugget in Madeleine's story that I just want to just tug on that thread a little bit, because other thing I struggled a little bit with in thinking about, like, when have you struggled? When you were talking about the group of you that all sort of began around women's health and that everybody sort of saw abundance and collaboration, that's the other silver bullet, I think, sometimes when that authentic sort of leadership isn't getting recognized, is the power of the pack. And you need amplifiers, and you need allies, and you need friends, and you need to not be an N of one. Sometimes is the most powerful thing that you can do for someone or have someone do. If I think about the times when I really needed somebody to have a voice for me or make space for my voice, that power, I think, of coming together is so important.
Thank you, Shelley. That's thanks for underscoring that and bringing that out. I think Marie, you had something you wanted to share.
Yes, you were asking about challenges, and well, I feel that we are all being challenged, like beyond challenge right now, dealing with COVID, because people are understanding or hearing a variety of things. Whatever the truths are, whatever we're considering truth is very, very different between, from one person to another. And I'm just recently hearing a lot of reporting on people that have had the vaccine, for example, and are having horrible reactions, if not actual death. And I'm just getting a lot of information. And so my challenge now is like, I know many people don't want to hear it, or I don't think they want to hear it. So who am I to, send them the link or whatever and put it in their face? I don't want to put it in people's faces, but what do I do? Hold on to it. So my challenge is, how can I just even let them know that information is available? Maybe give them the link if they care to look for it. Or do I just assume they can find it, or be, something could be sent to them as it was sent to me, and they'll find or pursue, whatever they're ready to hear or not. But there's so much going on that I guess is certainly not in the mainstream. And it's happening quickly, vaccines are happening all over the world. So I feel that's like almost a challenge crisis right now. And I was at a point today where I'm kind of paralyzed, not sure of how to respond. Just being quiet doesn't seem to be acceptable.
So Marie, in terms of leadership and being an authentic feminine leader, you're saying that sometimes you're challenged because you believe something and you want to share it from your heart, or you're compassionate, but it is very challenging when the science is different, right? And so that's kind of a bit of a different question, but it's very real, I think.
But it's not, the science is different. The information I'm hearing, and for months now, is coming from doctors and also individuals that are like posting on their like if there's a photo of a cell phone text saying, I lost my baby and whatever. And this is like, or a 19-year-old dies within days of having a vaccine. So it's not just no science. It's not necessarily a conspiracy theory. And all I'm saying is, my challenge is, how do I respect my caring of people and wanting to at least give them a link to some information if they care to. I know I don't want to just put information in people's faces, because not everyone's maybe ready to hear, but I do believe there's a lot going on that we're not hearing. But who am I to decide, to sort of, like I'm saying, I don't want to put it in people's faces. So yeah, that's where I'm standing at this point. Not knowing.
If I may,
Sure.
if I can make a suggestion, I completely hear the I don't know what word I want to use, but the challenge in what you're saying, the situation. I feel the tension in the situation, and there's so many examples that are coming to mind as you're speaking. I'm like, I remember that sense of tension in my body, almost, of saying like, oh, this would be really great, but I don't want to offend the person, and I want this to be of value, what I bring. And the strategy that I've used, which is odd because it's not the strategy I prepared to speak about in our next question, is to ask, is to go to someone, and you don't have to send the link, but you can say, I'm concerned about your health. Meet them in a place where you both are going to be, like, I'm sure they want to be healthy. You want them to be healthy. I've discovered some information. Do you want to chat with me about it? And be prepared for a no. And if the no comes, then you could say, great. I asked, and if the yes comes, then you can share that information. And what I found has been most valuable is to go into it, even sometimes when I feel passionately one side or another, to go into it with an open mind, to have a dialogue about it. Because that person may have their own information, so you can exchange. And I found opening up that door for exchange has been a much smoother path than, in many ways trying to either subtly or overtly push that information on another.
And that is a great idea, because I feel, to ask, simply write an email. It's many people. I mean, I'm from a very large family for one thing, but it's, family, friends. But to ask makes a lot of sense, and then let them take the initiative if they want to.
If they want, and not to include any links or anything, but just to ask, to open it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that feels good. Feels
Yay, excellent.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Ada, for that. Okay, I'm just conscious of our time a little bit here. And so now I'd like to open up to the third question. And I'm going to ask Ada to address it first. And how can we learn to embrace our authentic feminine leadership qualities? And how can we learn to embrace them? And well, I think you kind of segue what you just said.
Exactly. We're asking questions. And I think someone else said earlier, being curious with an open mind is such an important part. It wasn't actually what I wrote down in my notes, but this conversation has brought that to my awareness, that it's so important and so powerful to ask. And no matter what comes back, the yes, the no, I'm interested, I'm not interested, to fully accept and respect that person's decision. What I had taken down in my notes is to also be aware of the situation, what's going on around you, as well as what's inside your body. And I think Marie gave us such a great example in our dialogue when she said that felt good, right? Like, we feel good in our bodies, and sometimes we feel crummy, and to use that awareness and to practice having that awareness, then you can get better at it each and every day with more practice. So I'll keep it short, since I know we're running short on time.
Thanks, Ada. I think this business of listening to and trusting in your body's wisdom is huge. And many of us as women have been taught to not trust our bodies. So that's part of reconnecting with the feminine and our intuition and that inner strength that we have, right? So thank you for that.
Definitely.
Madeleine, do you want to address that question? How can we learn to embrace our authentic feminine leadership qualities?
Yeah, and well, there was a second question that I saw said, which asked, are there some qualities that are easier to embrace than others? Because the first question is like, I kind of don't know how to do things any other way. Like, I've just been at this for so long, and I just can't, I so strongly identify as a woman too, that it's like, and a feminist and all the rest of it. So it's kind of like breathing for me. But what's interesting is that there are the places where I notice more of the masculine. Like, when I get something, I make up my mind to do something, I want to do it now, like right now. And, or I get to a place where I'm just like, can we just make a decision, please? And instead of this inclusive, everybody has their talk and whatever. And so it's just interesting noticing that duality. But the ones I wanted to say, I feel like it can be situational, like whichever qualities you feel the most drawn to personally. Like, I love listening to people, or for me, it's vulnerability, and I love establishing a really lovely emotional connection with people, because that to me, it just unlocks everything. So that's kind of one of my specialties, but also what is needed in the situation. Does a decision need to be made? Does action need to be taken? Or do we need to, be more, just take our time, see what wants to happen, bring in that spirit of curiosity, and even letting go of the idea that something that of agency, like we're the actors, we're the ones who decide, we're the ones who choose. Well, what if we're not? What if we just show up and see what happens, and that's what's going to happen, So that's a very interesting reframe that I play with a lot as well. So thanks.
Thank you. What if we just show up and see what happens? Interesting. Yes.
I ask that all the time. What wants to happen? Like, what does it feel like? If you're struggling, it's like, just put it down and see what happens. Like, just what comes, what gifts does time bring? What, instead of always the hustle and the goals and all that stuff.
And also, I guess from a group perspective, a lot of times if you go in with a preconceived notion of what you want, then you position, right? You study conflict resolution and people get positional. But if you go in and open and thinking that, all these people in the room come from various backgrounds and different disciplines, and together what we really can do is better than what I can think up on my own or my team, 3 of us on a team. So yeah, bringing that openness and bringing that that idea that you don't have it all cooked, because if you're not invested, you're much more open to receive and create, right, something new than if you're like, oh, I've already made it, right? Good points, really good points. Okay, Shelley, what about you? How can we learn to embrace our authentic self?
Two beautiful sets of thoughts from Madeline and Ada, thinking sort of how we do that for ourselves. So maybe what I'll do is take it a little bit different direction in terms of thinking out and how do we, expand it. Because the thing that I think about is, 25 years ago, everybody was excited because there was electronic banking and you had a bank card. Nobody calls it electronic banking anymore. It's just banking. And so when I think about authentic female leadership, I look forward to a day in my career where they're just damn good leaders. And we're not talking about that way. We're not there, but that's the aspiration that I have around this. And when I think about how do we make it more comfortable for each of us, it's by making it more normal everywhere. So it's how do we call out those kinds of behaviors and those things we see when men are doing them, or those that don't identify with any gender, when people are doing the kinds of behaviors and the kinds of ways of being that we think are effective. And we talk as much about why and how something worked or didn't work as what. Because I think a lot of this is how you show up is what makes it good. So those are the two things that you got me thinking about, Ada and Madeline, as Pam asked that question.
I love those. That's fantastic.
Yeah, the why and the how. Yes, and it will happen one day. I love that vision that you have and you shared there, Shelley, and it will happen. Does anybody else have something to share from the participants who we haven't heard from yet? I'll take one share. If somebody who has something they'd like to share, or a quality that you find easier to embrace than others, and that one quality, authentic feminine leadership quality. Anybody? Jan.
I think as you listed so many, and many of them start with the letter C, community is something that I think is so important. I mean, it goes with collaboration, but I mean, I know today on something that Tammy Simon was saying, every problem that you have in the world can be addressed with community.
Every problem in the world that you have can be addressed by community.
And I mean, I'm paraphrasing, that wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
But the point is, I mean, just to see how much power there is in bringing people together.
And being open and listening, right? Thanks for that, Jan. I wish we could go on chatting. However, it's time to move on to breakouts, because one of the things we like to do in our meetings is have breakouts so that you get the opportunity to meet other women from different parts of Canada. And so now I'm going to ask Barb Eady, our very capable board treasurer, to in a minute set up the breakouts. But before you do, you're going to be in groups of 3. Everybody's going to have, we're going to have 7 minutes in a group. So each person have 2 minutes. So we recommend that you have a timekeeper. Someone sets a timer and keeps time. The person who starts first is the one with the shortest hair. And in your group, each of you state your name, where you're from, share several key takeaways from the panel, and also one action that you commit to take to strengthen your authentic feminine leadership. Everybody clear? So you have 7 minutes in the group and 2 minutes each, and you're going to Introduce yourself and where you live, share key takeaways from the panel, and also one action that you commit to taking to strengthen your authentic feminine leadership. Barb, do you want to go for it? And then when you come back, we'll debrief quickly.
Hi, Rita. Hi, Jan. Hi, Susan and Mark, the combo. You guys can unmute and we can chat while people are coming back. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna.
it's great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I still remember many concepts from your workshop. That was a great workshop.
That's beautiful. It's great. And it's nice to see the two of you together too. Fun.
First time in like many, many months. Yeah, a
Oh,
year.
of course. Yes, COVID. I
We
know.
each have individual bubbles, so people don't have to be worried.
Yes, I know. Me too. As a single person, yay!
Yeah.
I get to at least have a few people in my bubble. Yeah, great. Okay, so yeah, we're just getting everybody back. I think it's about a 60-second countdown, but yeah, so when everybody's back, we're just going to share some takeaways. So if you guys have any in mind, just keep them in mind till everybody's back.
I didn't have a group.
Jan, you weren't in a group.
No, you put me in with Rita and nobody else, and Rita just came in at the end.
Oh, I am sorry, Jan. I didn't do it manually. I did it automatically.
That's okay. I sent a text to Pam, but I wasn't able to get to you through the chat. There wasn't a host listed or anything.
Right. The breakout rooms are tricky sometimes, the features that are available.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you can share your takeaway with the whole group. There you go.
You know what? I'm great listening.
And you had a great takeaway already about the community piece. So that was beautiful. That was a beautiful share right before we went to the breakout room.
Thanks.
So yeah.
Maybe that's all I was meant to share.
There you go. Sorry you were alone in the room. I didn't realize that yeah, Rita wasn't able to share. Okay, is everyone back? I'm just going to see how we are. It looks like, okay, most good. Everybody's back. Okay, everyone. Thanks for heading into the breakout rooms. Sorry if there were some technicalities that people weren't quite in evenly numbered groups. Poor Jan shared with me that she was on her own. Some technical thing. So anyway, we're all back, and I just wanted now to facilitate some of the takeaways that you had with each other, meeting new people, and what you learned from each other about some of the things we already talked about tonight, maybe with the panelists. Any game changers, any challenges you've had in your own authentic feminine leadership, or some of the other ideas about how to embrace it, or what we need to do to move forward. So if you want to share a takeaway, you can raise your hand this way, or you can use the little reactions button at the bottom of the panel and raise your hand that way. Anyone have a takeaway? Or you can just actually open your mic and speak. You can unmute and speak. What a quiet bunch. Oh, there we go. Okay, Gail, go ahead, unmute.
I will say, as I said to the gals in my breakout, as a probably older person in this group and retired, I am so empowered and proud of all of you and this this movement. I would have loved in my career to have had this synergy and passion moving forward. So go for it, all of you, and trust your intuitions, because you are right. And that's all I'll say.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful share, Gail. And by the way, I teach about intuition, so I'm all about following your intuition. Another very important piece of feminine energy and leadership. Okay, and Donna, I see you have your hand up. Donna Fairhurst, go ahead, unmute.
Thanks. I'm like Gail. I'm older in the group, and I'm not retired and don't have any intention of it, I know. And I'm so excited. I think that this is well past time. We need to bring forward all of the clarity and cooperation and calm and creativity and community, to speak to Jan's word, that we can, and it's part of who we are. And one of the things that was a really aha moment for me when Ada was talking was that it's about being enough and then making more. Being enough and then making more of what we already are, because we have it all within us. And this is such a fabulous group, such a diverse representation of all that we are. And it's more than enough to make a big difference. So thank you for welcoming me to this group. I love it. I'm looking forward to everything that we do together going forward. And we all have a voice and we all have a part to play in it.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful share. Thank you, Donna. We all have a voice, we all have a part to play, and we can all show up as ourselves, and that's enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. And we hope you join us as a member.
I've already joined as a founding member.
Oh, well done. You're already setting an example. Beautiful. All right. Anyone else have their hand up? I'm going back and forth between screens. Oh, there, Susan and Marg. It's Marg. Go ahead, Marg. Unmute and go ahead and share.
We need an acronym. I was really struck by Shelley's comment that let's look to the future when it's not a gender-based analysis, but it does have to be. And I think, this group and others that are going to stop listening to dominating patriarchal kind of structures. But, there's models. I was thinking while you were talking, like racy and rapid, who's got the D of the decision. Maybe we need a feminine-centered acronym that we could start promoting.
Okay.
Madeline's got her fingers up.
Yeah, Madeline's giving you the big thumbs up over there. Okay, we'll work on that. Everybody in the group, the collaboration, we got to come up with a real catchy acronym. I love it. Race to the acronym. Okay, Denise, I see your hand up. Go ahead and unmute, Denise.
This has been great because it's, I was telling in the group that I was in, it's nice to hear that I'm not alone in experiencing challenges. In trying to advocate in this area. Majority of my background's in human resources, so I have a wealth of experience in interacting with senior leaders and in implementing change, the organizational effectiveness, organizational design. And I struggle, and something that Ada had said kind of resonated with sort of, Ada, you'd internalized it in, I see, we go into a situation with curiosity and an openness to explore, not to judge. There can be certain things, though, however, that are, from an organizational effectiveness perspective, purely wrong. And then it's that battle inside, do I speak or do I keep my peace? And in the organization that I just left, there were a lot of cultural flaws, to put it politically correct. And you actually paid a price in trying to do what was right. So my takeaway from this, I'm currently transitioning and exploring opportunities for a new role. But what I'd said to the team was, I'm taking away from this, I liked how you put it, Ada, it's about making an impact. And for me, I will focus in on really building the allies at the front end. So that when I am sort of pivoting internally with, wow, this is so wrong, I've got, people that hopefully can support and back me up that I can go to. But more importantly than that, having come from an organization which was quite toxic with the culture, being really firm on when I'm going to cut the cord. Because if I'm not able to make an impact, my value is I'm not contributing to it, and for my own mental health, it's better to be out of it.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for that share, and thank you for your vulnerability and some of the things you shared. And I think it speaks to, yes, what Ada was saying about the power of making an impact, but also, was it Shelley or whoever mentioned the power of the pack, allies and collaborators, community, all of that, in it together. And sometimes, yeah, in those toxic environments or those things we really want to change, look what we're seeing in the world today. Yeah, it takes a lot of collaboration, and it takes time, and it takes people. It takes all of us working together. So thank you very much for that. I think we have to wrap up that little part of the session. Just looking at the time. So Pam, I'm going to hand it back over to you. Or I'm sorry, to Michelle. Right, Michelle is going to talk about some of the benefits of memberships. Okay, Michelle, over to you.
Let me unmute myself, thanks. And I have a PowerPoint, because who doesn't love a good PowerPoint?
And because you're you, and we love that.
Because I'm me. Okay, can we? I just want to make sure. Sorry. No.
Yeah, I can see it. So we can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
You're good.
So first of all, I wanted to say happy International Women's Day, everyone. And I really can't imagine a better way to end the day than to engage in such an interesting and talented group of women. So thank you for joining us. And of course, a special thank you to our panel. I've learned so much, and I hope that you've enjoyed the evening as much as I have. So thank you for that. And tonight has given you a taste of what our upcoming monthly meetings at Female Wave of Change Canada will be like. We plan to have one or several speakers on a variety of topics at each of the monthly meetings with opportunities for engagement. And there'll be at least one breakout at each meeting. So you'll have a chance to meet interesting women from all across Canada. Female Wave of Change is a global movement with chapters in over 50 countries. And it's finally come to Canada. So in addition to the virtual, the flagship virtual leadership development program that they have, Women Leading in Change, which is offered by faculty from different backgrounds and cultures. Female Wave of Change provides support and education to women from all over the world and from all walks of life. To start new ventures, to be catalysts for change at all levels, and to share their voices. However, it's important to understand that Female Wave of Change Canada is part of this international organization, but we don't receive any financial support, which is why we have two types of memberships to allow us to function as an organization, as well as provide local and regional and national events and projects. So there are two members. Sorry, I've got dual screen, so hopefully I'm looking. Oh no, wait. Wait, you don't want to see that. We have two different memberships. There we go. We have standard and a founder. So the benefits of a standard membership includes the opportunity to engage in a global community of like-minded women from diverse backgrounds and cultures, to not only champion authentic female leadership, but also to be supported in helping women embrace and own their own strength and power so that they can leave their own unique legacy on the world. In addition to this community of amazing women, there is an opportunity to contribute to impactful events and projects through the lens of the 5 pillars. So of economy, education, environment, health, and humanity on a local, a regional, and a national level. And not only to be mentored, but to become a mentor to a group of influencers, as well as receive membership pricing for various events and courses. And Female Wave of Change Canada has also has a structure. We've also structured our membership to be voting members. So annually, you'll have a say in shaping our strategy, as well as approving the annual budget. And who doesn't love a good budget? Now, founding members, there we go. Founding members will be offered for a limited time, and it includes all the benefits of a standard membership, as well as financially contributing to the startup aspects of this national nonprofit. So The standard membership is $50 annually, and the founding membership is $100, which includes the first year of annual membership. Our April meeting will be a facilitated community member forum and will be open to members only. So if you're intrigued by our organization and would like to contribute to shaping the movement in Canada as we roll out, I invite you to join us by going to https fwoccanada.com. And when you sign up, please check the box that says sign me up for the newsletter, after which you'll receive an email from Female Wave of Change Canada, and please confirm your subscription. Otherwise you won't get all the updates on what's going on. So now I'll hand it back to Pam for some closing remarks and to open the floor to any Q&A. Where's Pam? Oh, Pam, you're muted. I feel like that's a new catchphrase in 2020.
I'm just chattering on here to myself. I just wanted to say we have a few minutes, just a couple of minutes for questions. If people have any questions about membership. Anybody have a question about membership?
Yeah, the $50, is that an annual membership? Because you did have the brackets on the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's 50. Yeah, we made it very accessible. We made it very accessible. We wanted people to come in and yeah.
So would you recommend the $90 or sorry, the $100 one, I think it was, right? For the founding member? So what would you?
Obviously, yes. We'd like to have lots of founding members if we can, because it supports us, you know, like with the stuff that we're doing. We have a landing page up, you know, so there's certain things that we need to do to operate, and then moving forward we'll look at getting sponsors and grants to do projects and events and initiatives. But yes, founding members would be great.
Is it a calendar year, sorry, a calendar year, or is it, so if I join say April 1st, does that take me to April 1st 2022, or do I have to renew somewhere in between there?
That's a very good question. Right now, my understanding, Michelle, did you find out about Stripe yet or no? We don't.
I did not, but I have full confidence in the capability of Stripe to be able to manage just the annual cycle of membership. So
okay. So yes. So if you join in April, then you're up the end of next end of March next year. So yes,
okay, thank you.
Year. No worries. Any other burning questions? Otherwise, I'll move to close. Any other burning questions? Marie, did you have one? No? Okay.
Now, do you have to be in Canada? Because I am in the United States, but I just love you all. And I just think this is an amazing group. So can you become a member if you are not Canadian?
Well, you know what? Let's talk offline.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe some opportunities. Thank you, Patty. We appreciate your work.
And you all are amazing. You're just amazing women.
Thanks, Patty. Okay, then. So I just like to say thank you to all of you for showing up brilliantly tonight, and for the panelists, for Shelley, for Ada, and for Madeleine, for really speaking from your hearts and sharing from your experience about related to authentic feminine leadership. And yeah, I've really enjoyed the panel tonight and learned so much. So thank you all for your active participation and for showing up. And we hope that many of you will join us to become members of Female Wave of Change. As just to underscore what Michelle said, our April meeting is a facilitated community member forum, which means you'll have the opportunity to shape the future of the organization. I'm very collaborative, and it's all about hearing from you what your needs are, what you'd like us to focus on. So one of the questions is going to be, what do you hope to receive from the organization, and what do you hope to give and get? I love asking those questions in groups because it gives you a really good sense. And then some more targeted questions related to what sort of topics are you interested in? What sort of speakers, who do you know that might be good people? And it could be yourself as well if you have some expertise you'd like to share, because we'd love to feature our members in our meetings moving forward. So thanks again. Happy International Women's Day, and hope to see you again soon. Take good care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Everybody.
much.
That was
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you, Pam.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Happy International Women's Day.
Bye,
Lovely.
everyone.
Thank you. Did a great job, all of you.
Thank you.
The
Bye,
teacher
now.
says, right?
Thank you, Patty from the US.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
So great. Hey, Jan.